Okay, welcome to another episode of Collector's World. What exactly is Collector's World? It is a video series that I do for the collector. Myself, I'm a renowned collector, dealer, seller, the whole works. All I do in this video series is pick a subject and tell you what you need to buy on said subject. Could be musical bands, could be TV shows, movies, performers, what have you. But basically, it's what I feel are the essential collectibles on that subject. Alright, basically there is a whole lot of stuff on George Carlin, and I found it interesting because this is not exactly a guy you associate perhaps with collectors. You know, if you pick like a rock band or something like that, you have t-shirts, hats, you know, pencils, pens, keychains, lunch boxes, there's everything. George Carlin does not exactly fall into that category, but he did cover the three major areas, the three major media categories, if you will. Obviously there were his albums, his comedy albums, both on record, most likely cassette as well, CD, and of course, what else did he do? There was DVDs. Now DVDs, you could get product obviously out there of his performances in films, television shows, whatnot, and then of course there's his actual comedy shows, his HBO specials and other things he's done. And of course there are books. George Carlin wrote a few books. There are a couple of books on him, and in my opinion you need well, if you're any kind of George Carlin fan, you need all of it. Here we go. Alright, let's start with the albums first. There were many different albums in no particular order or whatever. We'll see if we can get shots of these things. George Carlin, a couple of sets actually. This is a combination of a couple of his albums. I think there were 3 or 4 of them, I believe, on this one particular set. And basically all of his albums are, you know, CD copies of the shows that he did. For most likely, most of them were his HBO specials, and all of them are amazing performances, both audio and, of course, visual. These being the CDs, of course, my opinion, get them all. Get them all, George Carlin's comedy albums. In no particular order, although I think that this is the actual order that he made these shows. And last but not least, oddly enough, my favorite. The last show that he did, sadly, before he passed away, and this is my favorite of the ones he did, called It's Bad For You. I say get them all, get all of his albums. Those were the CDs. Let's take a look at the records, the LPs. Now, in no particular order, of course, we don't need to go through all of them, really, but this is my favorite, his FM and AM album, and I actually got this particular album autographed at one of his shows quite a while ago. And, again, no particular order, his famous Class Clown album. This is probably what put him on the map. The album that, you know, he became very famous for, of course. And there it is right there, the 7 words you can never say on television. And that was the routine that put him on the map, made him who he is, George Carlin. Of course, the routine that he's probably most famous for, changed a lot of, you know, laws and regulations based on free speech and whatnot, and he made his mark, for sure, with that particular album and that particular routine, and all the power to him. Back to the albums. Occupation Fool, which this was a great album. It's got a great fold-out on the inside. Very cool. And, of course, Toledo. Now, basically, I say, you know, get the albums, get the records, get the CDs. Sometimes people have preferences. They might get the CDs, not the albums, vice versa, whatever. But as a collector, get them all. What about DVDs? Now, like I said, you can get performances of all his, or you can get copies of all his performances, TV, movies, whatnot. But here are some of the essentials. Basically, what I think is the most important thing is you got to get the DVD box sets of his HBO specials. And there were a couple of them. There were 2 of them that I think are the best. The George Carlin collection. And one of the neat things about these is that you have George's personal favorites. So you do have many of the shows on these albums. I believe there's about 4 actual HBO specials. And then there's the compilation of his favorite personal moments of all of his shows. Either way, it's all amazing material that he performs and that he writes, of course, and you know, it's just further proof, as if we need any, that he was the best. The other comedy box set, the other DVD box set, completely Carlin, and of course, this is a 6-disc set, but the beauty of this one is the exclusive interview with George Carlin, so you do get the shows as well, and of course you get the exclusive interview, and you know, I would almost say that's really all you need DVD-wise, is just those 2 box sets. But there are others. Get them all. You know, make sure you see his shows, both listen to them audio and see them visual as well, because they're amazing. Now, what about books? George Carlin he wrote 3 books himself. And, of course, Brain Droppings was his #1 bestseller. And this is the book that started it all. I can't say enough about this book. It's absolutely awesome. He followed that up with Napalm and Sidley Putty. And, of course, When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops? You have to read why, or see in an interview, why he picked that title, trying to offend a whole bunch of major organizations with that one title. And, you know, just another example of the brilliance of George Carlin. Now, there was another book that he put out called Last Words, written with Tony Hendra. Now, this was put out posthumously. It is a book by George Carlin. It was basically a series of conversations he had with Tony, with the intention to write his autobiography with the material. And he did pass away before that could happen, so Tony put the book out. So essentially, since it is George's words, it is a book by George Carlin, and it's probably, obviously, the best example, the closest we'll get to an autobiography. And a fantastic book. Get that book. And, of course, the only book that I'm aware of on the subject of George Carlin, 7 Dirty Words, The Life and Crimes of George Carlin. There it is, by James Sullivan. A great book. Actually, I think there are some others out there, but, you know, that's the best biography out on George Carlin. This was Collector's World. If you're watching this, check out the other videos I have in this Collector's World series. I pick a subject and I tell you what collectibles that you, the collector, you, the fan, need to buy on said subject. If you get a chance, click subscribe right above you there and check out the other videos on Dr. J's video channel. Adios.